big project was on Black women runners during the Cold War.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was on, I mean, women across race and ethnicity as well, but most of the dominant women in the US who ran track and field for a couple reasons, which we can talk about if you want, before Title IX, who were, you know, like our Olympic athletes until 1972 and a little bit afterwards, were Black. And they were coming, speaking of Tennessee, they were coming from Tennessee State University. Before that, they were coming from Tuskegee, with this big event called the Tuskegee Relays. And that was really the forerunner of a lot of women's running in the United States. And but Jewish networks, Catholic networks were a lot of places where women's track got its start, because track was seen as so unladylike and so inappropriate. Yeah, for most women in the United States. Yeah, right? There were all these fears that you know, running could make your ovaries fall out, that you know, that literally competition, you know, that like not jogging maybe, but like competing against other women. It was really about competition and about like really exerting yourself, like racing.
Really?
Yeah, that could like turn your body almost into the body of a man, or that it could turn you into a lesbian, or I mean, people absolutely thought this. So
it was the 60s. Now let's keep it early.
Yeah, and really,
that's not that long. That's a shame. That's only the 60s. That's really,
hold on. But that's the thing. It's not that long ago. Right. We're only talking. We're not talking 1800. We're talking 1960s. Your ovaries are going to fall out because you compete in racing, in track.
Yeah, well, a lot of that started right around, you know, I would say like the late 19th century, when like Tuskegee was starting its women's track teams, and you know, at the same time, like Jim Crow segregation is really coming into force, and track and field is becoming more segregated, and in just like 20 years the NFL will become segregated, NBA is segregated, but yeah, it's really in Black elite college networks that Black women get their start, and in many ways it's due to like anti-Semitism, anti-Catholicism, but especially I think racism in the United States. Like there were these fears that if white Protestant women ran like anaerobic events and competed and did hurdles and stuff like that, that they would somehow become like unladylike or unfit to be mothers. And then all these other different ethnic and racial groups in the US, where there weren't these kinds of hangups and worries about really sort of like limiting women's potential quite in those ways. I think we see a lot more development for women's sports, but also I think white networks, basically because they were like quite racist, worried less about Jewish women or Black women competing. And so like the ironic twist on that is that by the time you get to World War II, when you have someone like the one of the very first American woman to win a gold medal in track and field is a Black woman, Alice Coachman, who comes out of Alabama and becomes a world record setter in the high jump. And then we move on to Tennessee State and we get Wilma Rudolph, who grows up with polio, going to get treatment in Nashville on a segregated bus with her mom for years, and becomes like the champion of the world in 1960. But so that's what my project was about, basically how during the Cold War against the Soviet Union, the US government starts sending women athletes all over the world to sort of show how free America is and how democratic it is. And those athletes kind of have the last laugh though, because they refuse to play into those narratives and really communicate in all the places they travel with people in their own way.